At the bank, my daughter pushed a pen at me. "Just sign, Mom." Her husband squeezed my shoulder until it hurt. I slipped the cashier a note. "Help, not my choice." They smiled for the camera, when suddenly the manager locked the door, and everything changed forever. If you're watching this, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you how a sweet old grandmother like me ended up slipping desperate notes to bank tellers. Because trust me, 3 months ago I was just Margaret Sullivan, 67, recently widowed, living quietly in my little house in Portland, Oregon. I had my garden, my book club, and what I thought was a loving family. How wonderfully naive I was. It started innocently enough. My daughter Sarah called one Tuesday morning, her voice dripping with concern. "Mom, we're worried about you living alone. What if something happens?" Behind her, I could hear her husband Derek clearing his throat, probably coaching her through their script. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I told her, watering my petunias. "Mrs. Chen next door checks on me daily, and I have my medical alert bracelet." "That's not enough anymore, Mom. You're getting older, and we think it's time to make some adjustments." Adjustments. Such a pleasant word for what they had planned. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and Derek increased their visits. They'd arrive with takeout dinners and concerned expressions, asking probing questions about my finances, my medications, my daily routines. Derek would walk through my house, making notes on his phone about safety hazards like the throw rug in my hallway or the step stool I used to reach high shelves. "We just want what's best for you," Sarah would say, patting my hand with the same condescending tone she'd used when her children were toddlers. The red flag started waving when Derek suggested I might want to simplify my banking. "All these different accounts, Mom," he'd say, shaking his head at my monthly statements. "It's so confusing. What if you make a mistake?" I'd been managing my own finances for 47 years, including running the bookkeeping for my late husband's contracting business. But apparently, that expertise evaporated the moment I turned 65 in their eyes. Then came the day they brought papers. Official-looking documents with lots of legal jargon and sticky notes marking where I should sign. "It's just a precaution," Sarah explained. "A power of attorney so we can help if you ever need us to." I set the papers aside. "I'll have my lawyer review these first." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Derek's jaw tightened, and Sarah's eyes flashed with something that definitely wasn't filial concern. "Mom, don't you trust us?" she asked, her voice wounded. Of course I trusted them. They were my daughter and son-in-law. They'd been married 15 years, given me 3 beautiful grandchildren. Derek had a good job at the insurance company, and Sarah taught 2nd grade. They were respectable, responsible adults. That was my first mistake. The pressure campaign began in earnest after I refused to sign their papers. Suddenly, Sarah was calling twice daily, each conversation peppered with subtle reminders of my declining abilities. "Mom, you forgot Tommy's baseball game last weekend," she'd say. I hadn't forgotten. They'd never told me about it. "Mrs. Patterson mentioned you seemed confused at the grocery store." Mrs. Patterson had never spoken to me in her life. Derek took a different approach. He'd arrive with printouts of internet articles about elderly financial fraud, home accidents, and cognitive decline. "I'm not saying this will happen to you, Margaret," he'd say, using my full name like a disappointed parent. "But statistics show." Statistics. The man worked in insurance. He could make statistics say anything. But it was the incident with my medication that really shook me. I'd been taking the same blood pressure pills for 3 years, same dosage, same routine. One morning, I found my pill organizer completely mixed up. Tuesday's pills in Friday's slot, blood pressure medication where my vitamins should be. "Oh, Mom," Sarah sighed when I called her, confused and upset. "This is exactly what we've been worried about. What if you'd taken the wrong pills? What if you'd overdosed?" I stared at my pill organizer, certain I hadn't made that mistake. But doubt crept in. Had I been more forgetful lately? Was I losing my grip on the simple tasks I'd managed effortlessly for decades? That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house, checking locks, looking for signs of my supposed decline. Everything seemed normal, organized, clean. My checkbook balanced to the penny. My bills were current. My mind felt sharp as ever. But Sarah's voice echoed in my head. "What if you'd overdosed?" The next morning, Derek showed up unannounced. "I was in the neighborhood," he said. though my neighborhood was 20 minutes from his office. Sarah asked me to check on you after yesterday's scare. He walked through my kitchen, opening cabinets, checking my refrigerator for expired food, like I was a child who couldn't be trusted with dairy products. Everything looks good, he announced, as if his approval mattered. But I caught him photographing my medication bottles with his phone. What are you doing? I asked. Just keeping track, he said smoothly. Sarah worries, you know. She asked me to document your prescriptions so we can help you stay organized. Document. Track. Organize. Their vocabulary was very revealing once I started paying attention. That afternoon, I called my lawyer, Robert Martinez, whom I'd known for 15 years. Robert, I need you to review some documents Sarah and Derek want me to sign. Of course, Margaret. What kind of documents? Power of attorney papers. And Robert, I think I might need more than just a legal review. I think I might need protection. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Can you come in tomorrow morning? And Margaret, don't sign anything until we talk. As I hung up the phone, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at me had silver hair, smile lines, and clear, intelligent eyes. This wasn't a woman in decline. This was a woman who was finally waking up to the truth about her family. Robert's office felt like a safe harbor after weeks of navigating Sarah and Derek's increasingly aggressive concerns. My lawyer, a sturdy man with kind eyes and 30 years of experience, spread the power of attorney documents across his mahogany desk. Margaret, he said after reading for 10 minutes, his voice carefully controlled, these aren't standard protective powers of attorney. These documents would give Sarah and Derek complete control over your finances, your medical decisions, and your property. They could sell your house, move your investments, even commit you to a care facility without your consent. The words hit me like a physical blow, but they said it was just a precaution. This is predatory elder abuse, Margaret, and it's more common than people think. Robert leaned forward, his expression grave. The fact that they're pressuring you to sign without legal review is a major red flag. I thought about Derek photographing my medications, Sarah's convenient concerns about my mental state, the mysteriously rearranged pill organizer. They've been building a case, haven't they? Making me seem incompetent? It appears so. Have there been any witnesses to your supposed confusion or forgetfulness? No. It's always just their word. Private conversations. Things only they could have observed. The manipulation was becoming clearer by the minute. What should I do? Robert pulled out a legal pad. First, we document everything. Every incident, every conversation, every pressure tactic. Second, we establish your complete mental competency with a comprehensive evaluation. Third, we set up protections. What kind of protections? We create ironclad documentation of your wishes while you're clearly competent. We establish a revocable trust with me as successor trustee if needed. We create a real power of attorney that protects your interests, not theirs. I felt lighter than I had in weeks. How long will this take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. But Margaret, you can't let them know what we're doing. If they suspect you're getting legal advice, they might escalate their timeline. That evening, I sat in my garden with a cup of tea, processing everything Robert had told me. My roses were blooming beautifully. Deep red climbers I'd planted the year Tom and I bought the house. I'd nurtured them for 23 years, just like I'd nurtured my relationship with Sarah. How had love become leverage? When had my daughter started seeing me as an asset to be managed rather than a person to be cherished? My phone rang. Sarah, right on schedule for her evening check-in. Hi, sweetie, I answered, my voice carefully normal. Mom, how are you feeling? Any more confusion with your medications? No. Everything's fine. I watched a hummingbird hover near my feeder, its wings beating so fast they blurred. Such a small creature, yet so powerful in its ability to remain exactly where it chose to be. Good. Derek and I were thinking we should come over this weekend. Maybe help you organize some of your financial papers. Make sure everything's in order. That's thoughtful, but I can manage. A pause. Mom, we really think it would be helpful. Derek has experience with this kind of thing through his work. Derek sold insurance policies. He wasn't a financial advisor, wasn't a lawyer, wasn't anything except a son-in-law who'd apparently decided I was too old to manage my own life. We'll see, I said noncommittally. Actually, we've already planned to come Saturday morning. I'll bring bagels. Not asked. Planned. They were coming whether I wanted them or not, and Sarah was packaging it as a treat. Bagels to soften the blow of whatever new manipulation they had planned. Sarah, I said quietly, I need to ask you something. Do you think I'm losing my mind? Oh, Mom, no. We just think you need support. Everyone does as they get older. Everyone. Not me specifically, just everyone my age. I was becoming a stereotype to my own daughter, not a person with individual capabilities and needs. I love you, sweetheart, I said, and meant it despite everything. I love you too, Mom. We'll see you Saturday. After I hung up, I called Robert's emergency number. They're coming Saturday. I think whatever they're planning, it's about to happen. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn clarity that makes everything seem possible. I'd spent Friday evening following Robert's instructions, gathering every financial document I owned and storing them in my bedroom safe. If Sarah and Derek wanted to see my papers, they'd see only what I chose to show them. They arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, Sarah carrying a bag of bagels and Derek armed with a leather portfolio that looked far too official for a casual family visit. My grandchildren, Emma 12, and the twins, Jake and Josh, 9, tumbled out of their SUV and ran to hug me. Grandma, can we pick apples from your tree? Emma asked, her eyes bright with excitement. Of course, sweetheart. The Honeycrisps should be perfect right now. As the kids scattered to my backyard, Sarah and Derek followed me into the kitchen. Derek set his portfolio on my dining table with the gravity of a man conducting important business. Mom, we brought those papers again, Sarah said, unwrapping the bagels. We really think you should reconsider. I poured coffee, my hand steady despite my racing heart. I told you, I want my lawyer to review them first. Derek's smile was patient, condescending. Margaret, lawyers are expensive, and honestly, these are standard forms. I reviewed them through my company's legal department. His company's legal department. The same people who wrote insurance policies designed to pay out as little as possible. I almost laughed at the audacity. Even so, I prefer to wait. Sarah and Derek exchanged one of their looks, the kind married couples develop to communicate without words. Derek opened his portfolio and spread new documents across my table. Actually, we've brought something different today, he said. Banking forms. To add our names to your accounts, just as backup signatories. I sat down slowly, studying the papers. Joint account holders, not backup signatories. The difference was crucial. Joint holders could access my accounts independently, without my permission or even my knowledge. Why would you need access to my accounts? I asked. In case of emergency, Sarah said quickly. What if you're hospitalized and bills need to be paid? I have online banking and auto pay for all my bills. But what if something happens to you? Derek pressed. What if you have a stroke or an accident and can't communicate? We'd need to handle your finances. The what-ifs were piling up like storm clouds. What if? What if? What if? Every question designed to make me feel vulnerable, unprepared, dependent. These forms require notarization, I observed. We thought of that, Derek said, pulling out his phone. My friend Mike is a notary. He's meeting us at First National Bank at 11 a.m. They'd planned this entire scenario without consulting me. The bank meeting, the notary, the timing, everything orchestrated to make resistance difficult. And if I don't want to do this? Sarah's expression crumpled. Mom, please don't make this harder than it has to be. We're trying to help you. Harder than it had to be. As if my reluctance to hand over my financial independence was merely stubborn inconvenience. I need to think about it, I said. There's nothing to think about, Derek said, his patience wearing thin. It's basic financial planning. Every responsible parent does this. Responsible. The word stung because it questioned not just my judgment, but my love for my family. A responsible mother would trust her daughter, would make things easier for everyone, would stop being so difficult. Outside, I could hear my grandchildren laughing as they picked apples, their joy echoing through my kitchen windows. For them, this was just a fun Saturday at Grandma's house. They had no idea their parents were systematically dismantling my autonomy piece by piece. Okay, I heard myself say, we can go to the bank. The relief on their faces was immediate and telling. They'd been prepared for more resistance, more arguments. My capitulation was almost disappointing in its ease. Great! Sarah jumped up to hug me. You'll see, Mom. This will make everything so much simpler. As I gathered my purse and identification, I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror again. The woman looking back still had intelligent eyes, but now they held something new. Not defeat, determination. Let them think they'd won. Let them underestimate the woman who'd raised a daughter and built a life. They were about to learn that simplicity was the last thing they'd achieved. The drive to First National Bank felt like a funeral procession, with me as the guest of honor at my own financial burial. I sat in the back seat of Derek's SUV, watching familiar neighborhoods blur past while Sarah chattered nervously about the weather, the traffic, anything except what we were actually doing. Derek's friend Mike was waiting in the bank lobby, a thin man in an expensive suit with the predatory smile of someone accustomed to witnessing people sign away their security. He shook my hand with practiced warmth. "Mrs. Sullivan, Derek's told me so much about you. This is just a formality. Really. Standard banking procedure." Standard for whom, I wondered, but kept the question to myself. The bank manager, a serious woman named Patricia Chen, led us to a private office. "Now then," she said, reviewing the paperwork Derek had prepared. "You want to add joint account holders to all of Mrs. Sullivan's accounts?" "That's right," Derek answered before I could speak. "For emergency purposes." Patricia looked at me directly. "Mrs. Sullivan, do you understand that joint account holders have full access to withdraw funds, make transfers, and close accounts without your permission?" "She understands," Sarah interjected quickly. "We've explained everything." But Patricia kept her eyes on me. "I need to hear from Mrs. Sullivan directly. Ma'am, are you comfortable giving these individuals complete control over your finances?" This was my moment. I could speak up, tell them I'd changed my mind, walk away from this charade. But I looked at Sarah's expectant face, at Derek's confident smile, at the notary checking his watch, and I realized something important. They needed me to seem confused, reluctant, possibly incompetent to justify what they were doing. If I appeared too decisive, too aware, it would undermine their narrative. Better to let them proceed and document their behavior. "I suppose it's necessary," I said, deliberately sounding uncertain. Patricia frowned slightly. "Mrs. Sullivan, you don't sound entirely sure. Perhaps you'd like more time to consider?" No, Derek said quickly. "She's just tired. It's been a stressful morning." I pulled out a small piece of paper and wrote quickly, "Help. Not my choice." I folded it and slipped it to Patricia when Derek was distracted by his phone. Patricia read the note, her expression carefully neutral. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson," she said, "would you mind stepping outside for a moment? I need to complete some verification procedures with Mrs. Sullivan privately." Derek's eyes narrowed. "What kind of verification?" "Standard banking protocol when significant account changes are being made. It'll just take a few minutes." Sarah looked worried. "Mom, you'll be okay?" "I'll be fine," I said, my voice stronger now that help might be coming. As soon as the door closed, Patricia leaned forward. "Mrs. Sullivan, your note suggests you're being coerced. Is that accurate?" "Yes," I said, relief flooding through me. "They've been pressuring me for weeks. I didn't want to come here today." Patricia nodded. "I'm required to report suspected financial elder abuse. Would you like me to do that?" "Yes, but they can't know yet. I'm working with my lawyer to protect myself, but I need more time." "Understood. Here's what we're going to do." Patricia pulled out a different set of forms. "We're going to set up the joint accounts as requested, but with special monitoring flags that will alert me to any unusual activity. Meanwhile, I'm noting in your file that this was done under duress." She paused, studying me with sharp eyes. "Mrs. Sullivan, you seem completely competent to me. Why are they doing this?" "Because they think I'm old and stupid and in their way," I said, surprised by my own bitterness. "My daughter used to love me. Patricia, now she sees me as an obstacle to whatever life she thinks she deserves." Patricia's expression softened. "I'm sorry. This is more common than people realize, unfortunately." She opened the door and called Sarah and Derek back in. "Everything's in order," she announced. "We just need the notarization and we'll be finished." Mike stepped forward with his official seal, but Patricia held up her hand. "One moment. Mrs. Sullivan, I want to confirm one more time. Do you want to proceed with these account changes?" I looked at Derek's barely concealed impatience, at Sarah's nervous energy, at the notary's expensive watch. I thought about my lawyer's advice to document everything, to let them reveal their true intentions. Yes, I said, let's get this over with. But as Mike prepared his notary seal, Patricia discreetly positioned her phone to record the signing. Evidence, I realized. She was helping me gather evidence of their coercion. Derek squeezed my shoulder, hard enough to hurt, and smiled for Patricia's camera. There we go, Mom. All finished. Now we can take better care of you. Take care of me, or take care of my money. As we prepared to leave, Patricia handed me her business card. Mrs. Sullivan, please call me if you have any questions about your accounts. Any questions at all. I tucked the card into my purse, knowing I'd be calling her very soon. The ride home was jubilant, for Sarah and Derek. They chattered about how much easier things would be now, how I wouldn't have to worry about complicated financial decisions anymore. I sat in the back seat, silent, watching them celebrate what they clearly saw as a victory. Mom, you're so quiet, Sarah said as Derek pulled into my driveway. Are you okay? Just tired, I replied, which wasn't entirely a lie. The emotional weight of what had just happened was exhausting. Well, you can rest easy now, Derek said with satisfaction. We'll handle everything from here. Handle everything. The phrase sent chills through me. They weren't offering help. They were announcing a takeover. As they gathered the children and prepared to leave, Sarah hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you for doing this, Mom. It shows real wisdom. Wisdom. She was reframing my coercion as wisdom, my capitulation as maturity. The psychological manipulation was almost artistic in its completeness. After they left, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea, staring at the pile of financial documents they'd insisted I sign. Every page represented a piece of my independence surrendered. Every signature a step closer to becoming exactly what they wanted. A manageable elderly woman who no longer inconvenienced them with opinions or autonomy. But they'd made a crucial mistake. They'd assumed I was as naive as I appeared. I pulled out my phone and called Patricia Chen. Patricia, it's Margaret Sullivan. I wanted to thank you for your help today. Of course. How are you feeling about everything? Honestly, like I just watched my own daughter steal my life. The words came out more bitter than I'd intended. Margaret, you still have options. The monitoring on your accounts will catch any unauthorized activity, and your lawyer can help you reverse these changes. How long do I have? Legally? As long as you're competent, you can revoke their access at any time. But if they're planning to have you declared incompetent, the unfinished thought hung between us. If they succeeded in having me declared mentally unfit, everything I'd signed today would become permanent. I need to move faster, I realized. Be careful, Margaret. People who've gone this far usually don't stop voluntarily. After hanging up, I called Robert Martinez. Robert, it's Margaret. They got me to the bank. I signed the papers. Margaret, no, why didn't you call me? Because I needed to document their coercion. Patricia Chen at First National recorded everything. She's flagging my accounts and filing a report. A pause. You're braver than I gave you credit for, and smarter. But Margaret, you've just given them access to your money. They could clean out your accounts tonight. Then I need to move my assets somewhere safe. Tonight. I'll start the paperwork immediately. Can you come in first thing Monday morning? I'll be there. That evening, I sat in my garden as the sun set behind my apple trees. The children had left a few apples scattered on the ground, and I thought about how perfect they'd looked hanging on the branches just hours ago. Now they were bruised, discarded, forgotten. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Thanks for today, Mom. You made the right choice. Love you. Love. Did she even know what the word meant anymore? Love wasn't manipulation disguised as concern. Love wasn't forcing someone to surrender their dignity for your convenience. Love wasn't laughing at your mother's distress while calling it help. But I wasn't beaten yet. Not by a long shot. I walked inside and opened my laptop. If Sarah and Derek wanted to play games with a helpless old lady, they were in for quite a surprise. Because this helpless old lady had just spent 47 years managing finances, reading contracts, and spotting liars from a mile away. They'd gotten access to my accounts, but they'd also given me something invaluable, documented proof of their intentions. Patricia's recording, the bank's elder abuse report, Robert's legal protections, all of it was building toward something they couldn't imagine. Tomorrow, the real game would begin, and this time, I'd be playing by my own rules. Monday morning couldn't come fast enough. I was at Robert's office by 8 a.m. sharp, armed with Patricia's business card and a burning determination to reclaim my life. My lawyer looked tired, like he'd spent the weekend working on my case. "Margaret, I've been busy," he said, gesturing to a stack of documents on his desk. "I've prepared emergency financial protections, but we need to move quickly. How are your accounts this morning?" I pulled out my phone and checked my banking app. Still intact, but there's been activity. Derek transferred $5,000 to their joint checking account yesterday evening. Robert's jaw tightened. "That's theft, Margaret, plain and simple. Can we prove it? With Patricia's recording and the elder abuse report?" "Absolutely." He spread the new documents across his desk. "Here's what we're going to do. First, we're creating an irrevocable trust with your assets. Second, we're establishing a new power of attorney that supersedes anything they might try to forge. Third, we're filing for a restraining order." "A restraining order against my own daughter?" "Margaret, they've demonstrated they're willing to coerce you financially. The next step is often isolation, cutting you off from friends, family, anyone who might question their actions." As if on cue, my phone rang. Sarah's number flashed on the screen. "Don't answer," Robert advised. "Let it go to voicemail." But I was curious. "I want to hear what she has to say," I answered, putting the call on speaker. "Hi, sweetheart." "Mom, thank goodness. Derek and I were so worried when we couldn't reach you last night." "They'd called?" I checked my phone log. No missed calls, no messages. Another lie to add to their growing collection. "I went to bed early," I said neutrally. "Well, we have some exciting news. We found the perfect assisted living facility for you. Sunset Manor. It's beautiful, Mom. They have activities and medical care and—" "I'm not moving to assisted living, Sarah." A pause. "Mom, after Saturday, we think it might be time. You seemed so confused at the bank, so uncertain about your decisions." Confused. There was that word again, weaponized to justify their control. "I was uncertain because I didn't want to be there," I said, my voice sharper than intended. "See? This is exactly what we mean. Your judgment isn't what it used to be. But don't worry, we've already put down a deposit. You can move in next weekend." Next weekend. They'd planned my institutionalization without my consent, using money they'd just gained access to from my own accounts. "Sarah, I am not moving anywhere." "Mom, please don't make this harder than it has to be. The decision's already made." The decision's already made. Not by me, of course. By them, for me, about my life. Robert was taking furious notes, recording every word of their presumption. "I have to go," I said. "I have an appointment." "With who?" "Mom, you shouldn't be making important decisions alone anymore." I hung up without answering. Robert looked grim. "They're accelerating their timeline. The assisted living facility gives them complete control. They can manage your finances, control your visitors, even your medical care." "How long do we have?" "Based on what I just heard? Days, not weeks." By Wednesday, the harassment was relentless. Phone calls every 2 hours, surprise visits from concerned relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, even a visit from Sarah's pastor asking if I needed spiritual guidance about accepting help gracefully. The most insulting was Derek's sister Linda, who showed up Tuesday afternoon with a casserole and a rehearsed speech about family loyalty. "Margaret, I know this is hard," she said, settling into my living room like she belonged there. "But Sarah and Derek are doing what's best for everyone. Sunset Manor is lovely. My friend's mother lives there, and she's so much happier now that she doesn't have to worry about anything." Doesn't have to worry about anything. What a pleasant way to describe complete helplessness. "Linda," I said carefully, "do you think I'm incompetent?" She looked startled by the direct question. "Of course not. You're just at a different stage of life now. It's natural to need more support." "What if I told you I don't want their support?" "Well, sometimes we don't want what's best for us. That's why we need family to help us make good choices." The circular logic was breathtaking. I didn't want their help because I didn't need it, but my not wanting it proved I needed it, which justified them forcing it on me. That evening, Patricia Chen called me at home. "Margaret, there's been significant activity on your accounts. They've transferred $15,000 to cover something called a facility deposit and another $8,000 for care coordination fees. $23,000. Gone. Without my permission, for services I didn't want, to imprison me in an assisted living facility, I'd never agreed to enter. Can you stop the transfers? Not legally. They're joint account holders now, but I can flag them as suspicious transactions given our abuse report. Patricia, they're planning to move me this weekend. Margaret, you need to get your money out of those accounts immediately. Tonight, if possible. After she hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Robert had prepared the legal documents, but moving my assets would take time. Time I apparently didn't have. My doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Derek standing on my porch with two men I didn't recognize. One carried a clipboard, the other looked like security. I didn't answer. They rang again, then began knocking. Margaret, Derek called. We know you're in there. We need to talk. After 10 minutes, they left. But I'd gotten the message. The friendly family pressure was over. Now came the intimidation. I called Robert immediately. They just showed up with strangers. It felt like a threat. Margaret, pack a bag. You're staying at my guest house tonight. Tomorrow we execute everything we've planned. Won't that look like I'm running away? No, it'll look like you're protecting yourself. There's a difference. Thursday morning at 10 a.m. I walked into First National Bank with Robert, Patricia Chen, and a court order freezing all joint access to my accounts pending investigation of elder financial abuse. Derek and Sarah were already there, looking confident and self-satisfied, until they saw the paperwork. What the hell is this? Derek snarled, his careful facade finally dropping completely. This, Robert said calmly, is a restraining order preventing you from harassing Mrs. Sullivan, and this is a court order freezing the accounts you've been illegally accessing. Sarah's face went white. Mom, what have you done? I've protected myself from thieves, I said, enjoying the shocked silence that followed. Thieves? Sarah's voice rose to near hysteria. We're your family. We were helping you. You stole $23,000 from my accounts without my permission to pay for an assisted living facility I never agreed to enter. Derek stepped forward aggressively, but the police officer Robert had brought stepped between us. Sir, I need you to back away from Mrs. Sullivan. This is insane, Derek said. She's obviously been manipulated by someone. Look at her. Does she seem competent to you? The officer looked at me, standing straight, speaking clearly, surrounded by legal professionals I'd hired and coordinated with. She seems more competent than you do right now, sir. Patricia spread new documents across the conference table. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, these accounts are now frozen. Any attempts to access them will result in additional criminal charges. Criminal charges? Sarah whispered. Elder financial abuse is a felony in Oregon, Robert explained pleasantly. Carries a sentence of up to 5 years in prison. The color drained from Derek's face. Now wait a minute. We were just trying to help. She seemed confused. She seemed confused because you were deliberately confusing her, Robert interrupted. Rearranging her medications? Gaslighting her about her memory? Pressuring her to sign documents without legal review? It's textbook financial abuse. You can't prove any of that, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. Patricia smiled. Actually, we can. I recorded your entire conversation at the bank, including Mrs. Sullivan's note asking for help and your physical intimidation when you squeezed her shoulder. Derek's confident mask finally slipped completely. This is bullshit. She's our responsibility. No, I interrupted, my voice carrying a strength I'd forgotten I possessed. I'm not anyone's responsibility but my own. I'm 67 years old, not 7. I've been managing my own life since before either of you were born. Sarah started crying. Mom, please. We can work this out. We don't need lawyers and police. We're family. Family, I repeated thoughtfully. Sarah, when did you stop seeing me as your mother and start seeing me as your ATM? That's not fair. When did you decide I was too stupid to manage my own money but smart enough to have earned it in the first place? She had no answer for that. Here's what's going to happen, Robert announced. Mrs. Sullivan's assets are being transferred to a protective trust. The joint accounts are permanently closed. The assisted living deposit will be returned immediately, and all contact between you and Mrs. Sullivan will cease until further notice. You can't keep us from our own mother, Sarah protested. Watch me, I said. The next few weeks passed in blissful quiet. No daily harassment calls, no surprise visits, no one telling me what I should want or need or feel. For the first time in months, I could hear my own thoughts without their constant commentary on my supposed inadequacies. I used the time well. Robert helped me establish ironclad financial protections, including a trust that would prevent anyone from ever manipulating me again. Patricia and I became genuine friends. She'd seen this kind of abuse before and understood the unique pain of being betrayed by your own children. But the real revelation came when I started talking to other seniors about my experience. My neighbor Mrs. Chen had a similar story about her son trying to convince her to sign over her house. My book club friend Dorothy had been pressured by her daughter to move into a nursing home she didn't need. Margaret from my church had actually lost her savings to a grandson who convinced her she had dementia. "It's epidemic," Dorothy said during our weekly coffee meeting. "They think once we hit 65, we become children again. The worst part," Margaret added, "is how they make us feel guilty for wanting to keep our independence. Like self-determination is selfish at our age." I'd found my people, women who'd been told they were too old to make their own decisions, but too young to give up completely. 3 weeks after the confrontation at the bank, Sarah called. I let it go to voicemail. "Mom, please. I know you're angry, but I miss you. The kids miss you. Can't we talk? I'm sorry if we pushed too hard, but we were scared. Scared of losing you, scared of something happening to you. Please call me back." The message was carefully crafted, apologetic, but not admitting wrongdoing. Emotional, but not acknowledging the real harm they'd caused. Classic manipulation, but more subtle now. I didn't call back. A week later, Derek showed up at my door. I didn't answer, but I watched through the peephole as he paced my porch, clearly frustrated by his inability to force his way back into my life. He left a note. "Margaret, this has gone on long enough. We made mistakes, but we're family. Sarah is heartbroken. The kids don't understand why Grandma won't see them. Don't let lawyers destroy our relationship. Our relationship." As if I'd been the one who destroyed it by refusing to be robbed. But the mention of my grandchildren stung. Emma, Jake, and Josh had nothing to do with their parents' greed. They were innocent victims of Sarah and Derek's choices. I called Robert. "What if I want to see my grandchildren?" "Supervised visits are possible, but Margaret, be careful. They'll use those children as leverage to get back into your life." He was right. Of course. But the thought of Emma, Jake, and Josh thinking I'd abandoned them was unbearable. That evening, I made a decision that surprised even me. I picked up the phone and called Sarah. "Mom?" Her voice was eager, hopeful. "Oh, Mom, I'm so glad you called." "I want to see my grandchildren," I said without preamble. "Of course! We can come over this weekend." "No, I'll meet them at the park, Saturday at 2 p.m., Laurelhurst Park. You and Derek can drop them off and pick them up in 2 hours." "Mom, that's not necessary. We can all—" "Those are my terms, Sarah. Take them or leave them." A long pause. "Okay, we'll be there." But I knew they'd try something. Sarah and Derek weren't the type to accept limitations gracefully. They'd see Saturday as an opportunity to wear me down, to restart their campaign of concern and control. They were wrong. Saturday arrived with that perfect October weather Portland is famous for. Crisp air, golden light filtering through maple trees. The kind of day that makes you grateful to be alive and independent enough to enjoy it. I arrived at Laurelhurst Park early, choosing a picnic table with clear sight lines and my back to a tree. Robert had insisted I carry a small recording device, and Patricia had given me her personal phone number in case I needed immediate help. At exactly 2 p.m., Derek's SUV pulled up. Emma, Jake, and Josh tumbled out and ran toward me with the pure joy of children who don't understand adult complications. Behind them, Sarah and Derek approached more cautiously. "Grandma!" Emma threw her arms around me. "I missed you so much. Mom said you were sick, but you look fine." Sick. Of course that's how they'd explained my absence. "I'm perfectly well, sweetheart," I said, hugging her tight. "I missed you too." The boys showed me their new school pictures, chattered about Halloween costume plans, asked if I was coming to Jake's soccer tournament next weekend. Normal grandchildren things, blessedly innocent of their parents' agenda. Sarah hovered nearby, clearly hoping I'd invite them to stay. Derek checked his phone obsessively, probably timing how long it would take to wear down my resistance. After an hour of pure joy with my grandchildren, Sarah made her move. "Mom, they've really missed you. We all have." She sat down across from me, her expression carefully crafted to convey hurt and hope in equal measure. "I know we made mistakes, but can't we move past this? For their sake? What mistakes do you think you made, Sarah? I asked. She glanced at Derek, who nodded encouragingly. We were overly concerned. Maybe we pushed too hard about the assisted living thing. The assisted living thing. I almost smiled at the minimization. What else? Well, the bank accounts were just a precaution that maybe wasn't necessary yet. Still planning for my eventual incompetence. Just with better timing next time. Sarah, I said gently, do you think stealing $23,000 from someone is a mistake or a crime? Her careful composure cracked. We didn't steal anything. That money was for your care. Care I didn't want, at a facility I didn't choose, paid for without my consent. Derek stepped closer. Margaret, enough. This victim act is getting old. We're your family. We have every right to be concerned about your welfare. And I have every right to determine what my welfare requires. Do you? His voice hardened. Because from where I sit, you look like a lonely old woman who's been manipulated by lawyers and bank managers into destroying her relationship with her own daughter. The children looked up from their game, sensing the adult tension. Emma's face was worried, confused. Derek, I said calmly, you just proved my point. You think my refusal to be controlled is evidence that I need to be controlled. You think my independence is proof of my incompetence. Sarah started crying. Mom, I love you. I just want to take care of you. No, Sarah, you want me to be taken care of. There's a difference. I stood up and gathered my purse. Emma, Jake, Josh, I love you all very much. You can call me anytime you want. But I won't be spending time with your parents until they understand that I'm not their property. You can't turn our children against us, Derek snapped. I'm not turning them against anyone. I'm showing them what self-respect looks like. As I walked to my car, I heard Sarah calling after me. Mom, please, don't do this to our family. I turned back one last time. Sarah, I didn't do this to our family. You did, the moment you decided I was too old to deserve dignity. 6 months later, I received a letter from Sarah. Not a phone call, not a surprise visit. A letter which suggested she might finally be learning to respect boundaries. Dear Mom, it began. I've been in therapy since our confrontation at the park. Dr. Williams has helped me understand some things about myself that I don't like very much. I think I was so scared of losing you the way we lost Dad that I tried to control everything, including you. I realize now that what I called love was actually fear, and what I called care was actually control. The letter went on for 3 pages, detailing her recognition of the manipulation, the financial abuse, the systematic undermining of my autonomy. She didn't make excuses, didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't demand reconciliation. She just acknowledged the truth. I don't expect you to trust me again, the letter concluded. I know I have to earn that, if it's even possible. But I want you to know that I'm trying to become the daughter you deserve to have, not the one who tried to make you into the mother I wanted you to be. I read the letter twice, then set it aside. Words were easy. Actions would tell the real story. But for the first time in a year, I felt something I'd thought was gone forever. Hope. Hope that my daughter might remember how to love me without trying to control me. Hope that my grandchildren might grow up understanding that age brings wisdom, not helplessness. And hope that other women facing what I'd faced might find the courage to say what I'd finally learned to say. No, I am not your burden, your problem, or your property. I am a human being with the right to determine my own life, at any age. If you're watching this and you've been through something similar, I want you to know something important. You're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're not too old to fight back. Sometimes the people who claim to love us the most are the ones who understand us the least. But you know who you are. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.